Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace here, dropping in on you. It's Friday. You know what that means. It's Quantum Reality Friday, and we're going to get off into a very integral and important segment or discussion on a very important element within the quantum theory. And this is going to be imperative. If you're looking to do anything exceptional, extraordinary, phenomenal, if you're looking to change your life, if you're looking to produce new results, this is where it all begins. And so we're going to get into that in a second. But before we do, I want to remind you, for those of you who are looking to work with someone like myself in a one-on-one capacity, email lifechange@rickwallacephd.link. That email address is in the description box. Email the support team will give you the information and the requirements. If you're interested to move forward, everything will be set up for you, and then we'll move with that. For those of you who haven't gotten Critical Mass, which is my 20th book, but the first book in this next 6-book series, you really and truly need to go ahead and order that. That's going to be a link at the bottom of the content in the description box. And finally, today marks, we're 2 weeks away from the release of I Am. It has been a journey. And those of you know me, is when I get to the end of the book is when it gets real, because it's so much I want to stuff in a book, and knowing that I can't, it's okay, how can I get this told? How can I get this across? But I'm excited about what this book is going to do, because there are some very simple processes and principles revealed in this book that can literally turn your world upside down and get you headed in the right direction. And it doesn't take a whole lot to get this initiated. It takes commitment, and it takes consistency, and it takes the willingness to go the distance. But you know, it's not 50 million different things you got to kind of line up, get it all written down, and hope you hit it. These are simple things that you have the ability to control. So I'm really excited about this book. Pre-order the book, and not only will you get it at a significant discount compared to the retail price that will be on deck this coming 2 weeks from now, whenever it is. I forgot. I've looked at the calendar, but I can't remember. But I'm going to get back to you. But it's definitely 2 weeks from this Friday, 2 Fridays from now, we will be doing the release. And the book will be, those who have pre-ordered the books, those books will go out. So I'm excited about this, as I always get with each book. This is going to be my 21st book. It's going to be the second book in this 6-book series. You want all 6, trust me. We're going to get with that. So if you haven't ordered it. But here's the big thing. Not only do you get it at a discount, but you get a free 30-minute breakthrough session with yours truly. And these breakthrough sessions have been nothing short of extraordinary, nothing short of exceptional. I've had people in the UK, I've had people in Australia, I've had people in South Africa, Ireland. I didn't know we had Black people in Ireland, but it was actually a Black female. Wow. But anyway, all of this is going on, and I'm excited about it. You know, my goal when I set out, my goal starting in about November last year, my goal was to reach 1 million people, to literally be a catalyst in changing 1 million lives by the end of this year, 2019. And we're well on our way. We're having a ball and a blast doing it. I am just really excited about the opportunity to be a catalyst in life change. With that being said, we're going to move on. And this is going to be a combination of what would have come across on Tuesday, which is Mindful Tuesdays, and today, which is Quantum Reality Friday. Basically, real briefly, for those who are just now coming into the quantum reality discussion, or the quantum model discussion, quantum is simply an expression of energy at its most micro level. And what we have learned scientifically is that matter is also energy, and energy is also consciousness. So the entire existence of the universe, from matter to consciousness, is in everything, and it's everywhere. and it's all around us. And what does that mean in essence? And this is the real one-on-one fast bam in less than a minute explanation. But what does that mean? That means that the answer to every problem that you will ever have is within your reach. The answer to every problem is in the mind of God. The mind of God is not some far distant place. The mind of God is literally accessible by everybody who is willing to align themselves at that level to seek the answers, and the answers are there. Matter of fact, the answer to every problem you have is literally sitting there, and for those who are seeking it and aligning themselves, the answers are speeding their way to you. The answers always come to those who seek them. That's what it means when it says, seeking you shall find. It is literally right there. And what I want to talk to you today about is the idea of the physicality of your thoughts. People always ask, how do I change? You know, I want to change my life. I want to change my life. That's like, you know, next to wanting money, the change your life general proposition is next in line. I want to change my life. I'm like, okay, where do you want to change your life? How do you want to change your life? Get this understanding first and foremost, that in order to achieve unbelievable results, you need specificity of vision, of image, of goals, of ideas, of expectations. In other words, I want to change my life is extremely nebulous, ambiguous, and broad. What you want to say is, I want to improve my relationship with my wife. I want to improve my relationship with my husband. I want to improve my finances. I want to go from earning A to earning B. I want to go from a net worth of to a net worth of. I want to have this amount of money by this time. I want my children to be in this type of situation by this time. I want to serve so many people by this time, sort of like my vision and my goal for 2019, 1 million people impacted. Whatever it is, you need a clear idea. Why? Because the more clear the idea, the more it becomes a realistic idea in your mind and something that you can aim for. One of the biggest problems I see with people who are chasing things is that things they're chasing are so ambiguous that they don't even recognize when they hit it, or they don't recognize how far off they are from it, and they can't make the adjustments. But when you have a clear idea of what you're going after, you can see if you're making progress or not, and you can see if maybe you're moving the wrong direction. You make the adjustments. It's all about making adjustments. You can take aim and be off, but you make the adjustment, take aim again, and you keep going until you hit. But if you don't know what you're aiming at, you could be hitting it and not knowing it, or you could be so far off from it that you could just shoot all day long and not hit because you're not even aiming in the right direction. And so it's extremely important to understand that. But what we know, and I'm not going to get into too much of the science of it now as far as quantum physics is concerned. Those who have listened or paid attention or maybe know a bit about it will understand what I'm talking about. Others, you'll have to catch up probably next week. I'll get more into the scientific side and the explanation of how this works. But basically what I want to deliver to you is that when you want to make change, you start with your thinking. If you want to change your life, change your thinking. Why? Because your thinking is the catalyst and the precursor to your reality. What you think, that's where you get, again, from the Bible scripture, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And when it says his heart, is speaking of his subconscious mind, the most powerful force in the universe, because it controls 96 to 97% of your entire behavior. Everything habitual comes from the practicing and programming of your subconscious mind to automatically do things. You're responding to things in at the speed of light, faster than you can process them consciously through your subconscious. And so you're getting behaviors, you're getting decisions and choices, you're getting expectations and beliefs. Everything is coming from this subconscious. So if you want to change what you're getting, you got to reprogram the subconscious and change your thinking. And there are a number of different ways of doing that, but you have to be willing to train yourself to change your thinking. And what I've seen in the clients that I've worked with, in the studies that I've done, in the research that I've conducted, the one thing that I've seen is most people are literally still carrying the thought processes, paradigms, and beliefs that were handed to them by their primary label givers, which in most instances are their parents. They are carrying belief systems about themselves, about the world, about God, about all of the things that collectively produced their situation and their reality, and it was handed down to them. And the thing is, there's never an evolution when that happens. That should be an evolution in thinking. That should be an evolution in expectations. That should be an evolution in how you view the world. Why? Because you are supposed to inherently and naturally be able to transcend and exceed what your parents did. But if your parents pass on their limitations to you and they lock you in that box, and then they reinforce what they've locked you into by consistently reminding you of what they've locked you into, you will program your mind to stay in place, to stay inside of the box, to never expect anything greater, and you will never achieve anything greater. You will be bound by the paradigms that were created by your parents. When your parents say this is what it is, and then they come by and say, no, you should never try that. You're not going to be good at it. You know, this is what it is. You'll probably never make any more than this in your lifetime. That's just how it is. You know, or I did this, so you should expect to do a little bit better. So you'll get here. If you can just earn this amount right here, you've done awesome. You've done great. And they're setting these different things. You know, they pass on their limiting beliefs. And as much as our parents wanted to really believe that they had this unbelievable, unyielding faith about God, and in their own box they did, they never stepped out of the box to see just how big having faith in God and the design of this universe by God to serve them, they never saw outside of that. They stayed inside of that box, and they lived their box believing that what they were going through was their lot in life instead of a transitionary period that they had the power to push through. And so you got to change your thinking. You've got to get out of the mindset of being a victim. You've got to get out of the mindset of saying, because of my background, because of my mistakes, because I went to prison, because I failed in marriage, because I was a cheater, because I've never been able to produce anything more than in compensation and earnings and revenue generation, because. And what you're doing is you're taking what your parents handed you. Now, and your brain is by nature keeping a record of it. And every time you talk about anything particular, your subconscious mind scans its tremendous vault or our archives of things in that category to come up with an idea of what is and what isn't and what's possible. So when you sit up and say, I'm going to start a new business, I really want to start a new business, or any conversation about you doing business or doing this or having an awesome marriage or building a company or whatever it is, your subconscious scans your memory, and your subconscious says, okay, never fail this time, fail that time, parents fail, blah, 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 can't be done, because that's the paradigm. It's literally processing every piece of information that ever came through based on that, and it's coming to a conclusion, and it gives you the conclusion in the way of a thought. And your thought says, that was nice thinking, but that ain't me. You know, I'm never going to be this. My mom didn't do it, blah, blah, blah. You start regurgitating what your subconscious presents as its reasoning, and then you sit up and you reinforce it, and you never take action. And see, that's because you still have your brain and your mind functioning as a record keeper of what happened in your past. And when you have that happen, you are sitting up and you are allowing your past to dictate your future. One thing that I've often said is one of the greatest failures of humankind is attempting to mortgage your future to pay for your past, or allowing your past to dictate your future. They're not connected. You don't have to connect them. When you connect them, that's because you've done it, or you've allowed a certain course to attach your future to your past. Now, what you have to do if you don't want your future attached to your past is you have to sit up and say, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to program my mind to stop being a record keeper and to become a compass and a map for my future. I'm going to establish in my thinking a new idea. You know, for those who are believers in biblical scripture, he says, I'm going to do a new thing. So I'm going to establish this idea of a new thing. What's this new thing? It's going to be something greater than the old thing. It's going to be something exceptional and extraordinary and transcendent to the old thing. I'm going to do a new thing. Now, how are you going to do a new thing if everything in your past produces what you've already done? See, when you use your brain as a record keeper of your past, it simply consults your past to determine what you're going to do in the future. And you can't produce the new thing by consulting the old thing. So what do? You have to literally sit up and say, I'm going to start envisioning what it looks like to be better. I'm going to start envisioning what it looks like to be a good husband and to be a good wife. I'm going to start envisioning what it looks like to be a good parent. I'm going to envision what it looks like to be a successful entrepreneur or business person. I'm going to envision what it looks like to build wealth, not just for myself, but generational wealth to pass down to my progeny so that they don't have to go through what I went through. I'm going to start creating through the very thing God gave me for creation, my imagination. And this is where it gets real, because see, you got to understand two things are taking place. I'm reprogramming my brain to think a new way. I'm creating new neural pathways that house new ideas, new beliefs, and new thoughts. And my thoughts have physicality. Why? Because my thoughts literally and physically emit energy. Now, depending on what my thoughts are, it will tell me what the frequency of the, in way of hertz measurements, what my thought is doing. Now, the higher the frequency, the more positive the results. So when I'm thinking about positive things, when I'm thinking about exceptional and extraordinary things, I am raising my frequency, and then I am creating this physicality that communicates with the universe. Do you realize that we communicated more lucidly and accurately before we developed language? Why? Because we were communicating through frequency. We were communicating with people who are on the same wavelength. We were communicating in the same way many animals still communicate. Language literally allowed us to communicate, but it brought us down in the way of totally being able to communicate and with the universe in whole. We began to communicate in subsections based on location and nationality and race and so many other things that influence language, but we lost the ability to consult our spirit and to communicate through spirit, through energy, through frequency, through vibration. And what happens is when you start to create these new ideas, what you're doing is you're training your mind to see something different. Because what happens when you imagine something? Remember, I told you that your brain and your mind was designed by God not to be able to distinguish between what's being imagined and what's actually happening. Why? Because if I want to create something new, I create it through my imagination. And why is that powerful? Because if my brain can't tell the difference between what's imagined and what's real, when I imagine it and it's very clear and I can literally see it and I can picture myself in it, it's literally convincing the brain that it's happening. Now, why is that important? Because if I've already done it, I don't become overwhelmed by the need to do it. It's unbelievably powerful. I've told you about a number of studies. My favorite one is with the basketball players who couldn't shoot free throws. They took 50 of them and put them on the court, and they practiced shooting thousands of shots every day. They took the other 50, said you can't even hold a basketball over the course of this study, and all they did was make them sit in a seat and visualize shooting perfect free throws going through the rim every time, nothing but net. And they did that over and over every day, and they outperformed the ones who were practicing it physically because they can only see themselves shooting it perfectly. And the power of having done it over and over in your mind says, I'm a good free throw shooter now. That's how you build confidence. That's how you change expectation. That's how you deal with it. God designed us to do exceptional and extraordinary things. But what we tend to do is consult our past reality for permission to create a new reality, and we never get it. You've got to make up in your mind that I'm not happy with what I'm seeing in myself now. I'm not happy in what I'm doing now, so I'm going to do something completely new. And I'm going to envision it first, And the physicality of my thoughts will produce it. Plus, I'm programming my mind now to expect it to behave and do things. So now my brain and my mind stops being a record keeper of the past and starts being a compass and a map for the future. I'm literally creating a new idea, a new thing by what I do here. You cannot imagine the power of your mind. It changes everything when you change it. Go to what Paul says in I believe it's Romans 12:2. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Paul says it again. Says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for the pulling down of stronghold, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. Bringing every thought, casting down arguments, anything that is not in alignment with what I'm demanding of myself, I'm casting it down. You know, the religious term people will probably use is I'm rebuking it. When somebody speaks contrary to what I have established for my life by declaration, by expectation, I have a responsibility to rebuke it. I have a responsibility to cast it down. I have a responsibility to move it out of my way and dismiss it. I am going to constantly feed my mind what it is I want and defend what I want with diligence. Your thoughts have physicality. We perform based off of our expectations. Why? Because God and the universe meets us at the level of our expectations. With that being said, look, I'm gonna get off of here. We're gonna get back off into a lot of this in the coming weeks. But what I want to do is I want to start understanding that you were not designed for mediocrity. Mediocrity doesn't come from greatness. The designer is the epitome of greatness, and mediocrity does not descend from greatness. Mediocrity becomes the default of not living at the level of your design. Mediocrity is the result of succumbing to awkward and wayward suggestions about who you are, and the dismissal of your true identity and the acceptance of a latent one. And that's where mediocrity comes from. It becomes the default for failure to live at the level of your design. Your design says greatness. Your purpose says greatness. And you have a responsibility to establish that platform, that purpose, that assignment, and live it out to the fullest. And every last person that will ever watch this video has the capacity to do so. I've seen genius in autism. I've seen genius in retardation. I've seen genius in poverty. I've seen genius in abused and traumatized people. There is a genius inside of every person. The problem is we live in a world that doesn't want to find it and doesn't want to celebrate it, but wants to normalize and marginalize gifts and make everybody the same. Standardization has wreaked havoc on God's design. Stop living what everybody else tells you should live. Seek out what you were designed for and live it, and greatness will overcome you. That's it for today. Have an awesome day. Don't forget, if you haven't ordered I Am, make it happen. You're going to love these books. And if you haven't gotten Critical Mass, get that one as well, because both of these books are extremely powerful. Again, I'm excited about it. Have an awesome day. I've got so much to do, but we'll talk soon. I'm out.